Paul, you mentioned 17, WrestleMania 17. I have to tell you, I never told you this in public, it's probably one of the greatest days of my career. And next year will be 40 years for me. I thought, for whatever reason, you brought out the best of me. And you pissed me off at the right time. You challenged me intellectually at the right time. You're a perfect antagonist. And I felt, looking back on that day in the Houston Astrodome, where they love you blue, and Bum Phillips, Coach Earl Campbell, that was one of my, without sounding too egocentric, one of my finest moments. Stone Cold joining Satan himself to become the hated villain in his home state of Houston, Texas, was absolutely, I'll never forget that day. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I'll let you know why that's so humbling. I first got to be a color commentator in WCW because I kept on getting in trouble saying things on interviews I wasn't supposed to say. So, of course, why not give that person 2 hours of airtime on Saturday nights? And they paired me up first with Lance Russell, who I loved. You know, I mean, I loved Lance from Memphis, and I just walked all over him because Lance would let me. And then they paired me up with Tony Schiavone, and I walked all over Tony Schiavone because that was who I was. I was Paulie Dangerously, and I was like, hey, if he can't keep up with me, screw him. And then they paired me up with JR, and JR just grabbed me by the wrist, and he says, we're going to do really well here, or you're going to look really stupid. So, and, you know, I just sat under the learning tree, and I learned to talk in sound bites, and I learned not to yell at all times on commentary, because that was, you know, especially back in the late 80s, that's all I knew how to do, was just yell and give a lot of energy. And I learned how to be a commentator from, when I taught Joey Styles how to be a commentator in ECW, all I did was tell him the things that JR taught me inside the little sound booth in WCW and on the live broadcast. So I assure you, sir, it is I who thank you for that night. In terms of what matches I would like to see at WrestleMania, there are 3 that I personally fantasize about. One, from a historical perspective, is Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan. That match should have main evented a WrestleMania on any year, for the simple fact that history deserves to categorize that match as a WrestleMania main event. And anybody that grew up in any era that looks back on the history of this industry, Flair versus Hogan should have been a WrestleMania main event.
Amen.
For my
Sid Vicious, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Randy Savage, give me a break. What ticket are you gonna buy? Huh? Give me a break. I know. So, but you know, things change and it all worked out good, and it is what it is. And I appreciate that comment.
No, it's the truth.
But we should have Hogan, WWE, WWF, Flair, WWE. It was a natural, but
it was the worlds colliding. It was the dream match for anybody.
And the thing of it is, I'm so easy to beat. I haven't won a match ever. So I would have just gone out there and taken the big leg. You know, Hogan just had 7 back surgeries in the last year and a half, right? So I go to him, you never fell down in the ring from dropping a leg on everybody. True story. He never fell down, ever. With me, I don't think I ever gave him a flying mare.
All right. I'd like to thank Grey Goose for sponsoring this portion of the broadcast.
Jared, if I continue, there are 2 others.
Soundbite, baby. Give me 2. Give it to me.
For my own personal enjoyment as a fan, the match that I want to see main event a WrestleMania, or as a gamer to see it in the game, would be Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk. I saw a series of matches last year on television right before Punk and I got a chance to work with each other. And I never could take my eyes off the TV screen. I was mesmerized by what Daniel Bryan and CM Punk could do together. And in terms of the new style in this industry, those two have a chemistry that harkens back to Austin and The Rock, Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. It is just the premium match of our generation. The third match that I fantasize about is one that I will selfishly tell you I want to be a part of. It's the toughest SOB versus the baddest dude on the planet. I fantasized about it since I saw Brock Lesnar choke out Shane Carwin and looked over to my left and saw Steve Austin standing there. Can you imagine the box office appeal of Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Brock Lesnar?
I'm buying a ticket for it, baby.
Retail?
Hell yeah.
Paul, we need another syllable in there when you say Brock's name. Come on, give it to us a little better than that.
The
Brock Lesnar.